All right, everybody. Well, our next podcast rock star on Pitch a Pod Pitch is Two Barrels of Energy. This guy has a true passion and has become a true messiah out there in his niche of what he loves and does on a day in, day out basis. This guy is absolutely a rock star and just absolutely has a passion, is igniting a movement actually across the country to set aside and disbelieve a lot of the credit and funding myths out there. And the guy I'm talking about is our buddy Merrill Chandler. And over 25 years ago, Merrill, a personal and business credit pioneer and co-founder of Lexington Law firm, became dissatisfied with the negative results of credit repair. Leveraging his extensive knowledge of credit profiles and lender underwriting requirements, he developed a process that could optimize personal and business credit profiles and improve a borrower's fundability. He founded CreditSense to deliver this revolutionary technology to real estate investors, business owners, and entrepreneurs nationwide. And he's helped thousands of borrowers become more fundable and help them access the capital they need to fulfill their financial dreams. And so we are honored to have the host of the Get Fundable podcast and the author of the new F word. Got my copy in just the other day. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Merrill Chandler.
Thank you very much, Scott. Well, once again, awesome to always be introduced by you. I sound like a rock star every single time you mention that. So do I go to sharing my screen? How do you want to do this?
Yep. If you got some slides, go ahead and share your screen. Yeah.
Yep. Here we go. All right. So first things first, my whole point for joining this this Petcha podcast Shark Tank marathon is the ultimate question that you're asking: how can I make your listeners' lives better, right? And I've been on literally dozens and dozens of podcasts where the host brings me in, and there's a belief about, okay, this can be some cool stuff. This may actually rattle some cages. And then they come out after the fact. They're like, you have got to come back on. There is more to talk about. I did not know this was even a thing. So the first thing and the most important thing for your listeners is they need to understand. They get to discover the real truth about how the funding, the lending system works. There's so many misconceptions, as Scott said. There's so much misinformation, and some of it is intentional. We want them to know exactly what is going on, because in my world, only the truth is actionable, right? If you're fed a load of BS, you're not going to have the opportunity to make powerful decisions, right? This isn't about teaching them how to get a loan or a line of credit. This is actionable, implement right now tips and techniques. Your listeners will walk away from any podcast episode with something to do, revolutionary insider secrets that are going to give them insights about how to become fundable, how to get a yes from lenders. That's where the power in this entire process comes from. A little bit about me, right? Just like Scott said, I just finished the new F word, right? Fundability. I'm pleased to announce that before me, Google fundability was not a Google search term, and we just found out that fundability is a new search term in the vast universe of in the Googleverse, right? I've got my own podcast, the Get Fundable podcast, as well as I've been speaking in real estate and entrepreneur conferences for over a decade, and I coach clients through the Fundability boot camps, FICO. But probably one of my funnest things that I love, that I bring to this party, is that I have had the rare opportunity to become a FICO insider. Let me tell you what this means for your people. One of the gentlemen who started out as a student, was a podcast listener, went through the very process of listening to podcasts, then picking up a book, then listening to more podcasts, becoming a student at the boot camp. And within 9 months, he was able to take down literally over $160,000 in business actionable credit. Now, these are not credit cards. This isn't credit card stacking. These are tier 1, tier 2 banks with write a check, do a deal, credit lines. Okay. So where I came to this, in fact, he's just one of literally hundreds of borrowers that we have helped build actionable fundable profiles, and much of it from the very education that I teach on Scott's podcast and all the podcasts that I've been a guest on. I am free with this information. It is my pleasure. It's an honor to be able to just get it out there, because there's so much BS going on out in the world, right? And so why am I the guy? Well, I've been an entrepreneur myself. If your listeners are entrepreneurs, small business men and women, if they're real estate investors, these are my people. This is who I am and have been. I started out when I was a young man, built and sold a successful franchise, but 27, flipped my first $100,000 takedown of a profit of a house by 29. Co-founded Lexington Law firm. We'll talk about that in a minute, but the single largest credit repair law firm in the country, right? Had properties and knew how to get business lines of credit back in the day. This has always been my thing. But what happened was, when I was at Lexington, I found out that credit repair does not make clients fundable. We're changing this whole dynamic from good credit, bad credit to, will a lender give me money? Fundable versus not fundable, right? It also came with the opportunity and burden of studying tens of thousands of credit profiles, and developed a process that made this a simple, once you know the combination to the lock, you can open the door, and it really is that simple. The thing is no one else is teaching your audience the real truth of what it means to grow their businesses with near unlimited a financial opportunity, near unlimited credit lines, business loans. Because when you know the math, when you know what FICO and the lenders are looking for, it's easy to create the big wins in your funding. So another reason why you want me to be a guest and be a repeat guest is that I discovered that 90+% of all business and personal funding approvals use FICO software. So when I discovered this years ago, I found out that, first of all, there's a lot of credit score posers. Unfortunately, one of the greatest travesties, one of the greatest lies that is perpetrated on borrowers. There are 80 million people who use Credit Karma's credit score to evaluate their credit health and well-being. But what most people don't know is that's a FICO score. No lender uses that score to evaluate whether or not they're going to approve you for a loan. Nobody does it. But here they go. They just tell everybody, all their ads preach this wonderful life that you look at your Credit Karma score and you can get approved. Nothing is further from the truth. We go into this, and depending on what you want to cover and what you want me to share with your listeners, there's dozens and dozens of these powerful awarenesses so your people can stop stepping on the funding landmines. Well, when I found out how influential FICO really was, we had the opportunity to go back to what's called FICO World. FICO World is exactly what it sounds like. It is like the Mount Olympus of the funding and credit gods. And I met with Will Lansing, you see in the picture. I met with the CEO, and he hooked me up. I had to sign an NDA, first of all, but he hooked me up with the score development teams, business and personal development teams. And in 2016, 2018, just last 3 months ago in November 2019, we went to the FICO. The funny thing is that they're trusting us more and more because they've learned we're not credit repair. We're about borrower education. I'm committed, free of charge, to give all the possible information I can get so that FICO's so that borrowers can become more fundable and be more attractive to lenders. Now, this is a little pat on my own back, but it's pretty cool when a vice president of scores and predictive analytics at FICO invites another vice president of scores to attend the meeting in 2019. What this means is that the lending environment is a dynamic and always changing environment. And I will make sure that your listeners have the most up-to-date insider information on the funding process, these insider secrets that are not being broached anywhere else. My name is Merrill Chandler. Check me out at getfundablepodcast.com, or if you want to talk more about getting me on as a guest or a repeat guest, as some of our favorite hosts have experienced, reach out to me personally, Merrill Chandler at getfundable.com, and I would love to talk about what are the needs of your audience, your listeners, and how we can actually not just blow them away, but give them the things they need to change their financial and therefore their personal lives. Thanks for listening.
Merrill, what's been the biggest surprise since you started the Get Fundable podcast that's kind of blown you away that you didn't expect?
Oh, that I didn't. This is my passion, right? But I've noticed that the number of listeners continues to go up and up and up. Okay, this is great. Just last night, I had my own little experience. Many of you have already had this, but I walk into a T-Mobile office. I'm getting a new iPad for some of our stuff we're doing, and a guy goes, "Your name sounds familiar." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a client here." And he goes, "No, your name sounds familiar." Well, I happen to be wearing my Are You Effable t-shirt. And he goes, "I listened to your podcast." And all of a sudden I'm like, no way. This is just, okay. I'm not prepared for walking into a random place in Salt Lake City and some random guy have been listening to my podcast. So I have loved being able to get my message out there free, just bombard you know, Scott, how much I just a deluge of information, right? So that's probably the funnest thing I've encountered in having the podcast in the last 7 months now, was that it's where I get to express myself and people get to know the truth of who I am, and then we can have this a dynamic conversation.
Mm-hmm. What's the best bit of advice to somebody who's thinking about starting a podcast that you would give to somebody? Because you only had your podcast for how long now, though?
Yeah, it's 6-7 months. It was last August was when we started doing. Oh no, that's when we were recording them. It's more like September. My producer's sitting there going like, no, it was like September, October is when we began publishing them. But we were producing them before that. But it isn't what I've found. This podcasting isn't about lead generation. It's about influencing people with your passion. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, this thing it's going to die. But if you love it, if you get to be who you are, sharing your favorite thing in the world, and that's what you're doing your podcast on, then you're going to be a rock star. But if you're doing it just to create leads, no, you'll die an ignominious death. But I just want you to find your passion and then share your passion, because man, there's room for everybody. The guy that was talking to at T-Mobile, he was like, "I love podcasts." And they started sharing among them other podcasts, and hooked up his friend with mine. So find your passion, and that's what will grow your soul, grow your business, grow your influence in the world.
Awesome. Merrill, thanks so much for being on Pitch a Pod Pitch, buddy. We'll see you later.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here once again. Thanks, man.
Thanks, bud. Bye.